Hi, everybody. It's Jen.
And Tara.
So we are now in our episode 6 at our Mother's Day special.
Hard to believe.
I know. It's been going so well. So we are doing a 2-part Mother's Day series, and we did the first part with with Tara's mom Sheila last week, and now we have my mommy. I know. I told her that I'm probably going to cry and gush and be completely obnoxious. So you'll have to bear with me because my heart is very gushy when it comes to my mom. So we have my mom, Marty Conrad, the one, the only, the famous Marty Conrad.
Hello.
So first of all, we had to tell her that she's not on a blog, that she's actually on a podcast because she keeps calling it the blog, which is very cute. So I am lucky enough to have this woman as my mother. And I just have to say that, part of what we want to do here and part of what we want to share is just that, I tell her and I know and I believe that I am only who I am because of who she is, and I am lucky enough to come from an incredible line of really incredibly strong women. And my mom, and I was just telling her actually this morning, I said, my mom has been able to love me in a way that sometimes she's not even sure she can do. And I don't mean that to be in a rude way. Well. Yeah. And I don't mean that in a way to be rude or anything, but it's more we fundamentally are actually kind of very different as when it comes to how we've lived our lives and what we've done. But then we also have a lot of similarities. And I think what I know about my mom is that she has always been unconditional. Unbelievable. When she should be conditional and judgmental and when I was doing crazy stuff, she was always a rock and always loving. And even when she had to be yeah, I don't really get that. And I can't talk to you anymore. We might need to have this conversation again later. And I'm sure I pushed her to limits that she didn't even know existed. She was always there and she never pushed me away. I think that's the difference. You know what I mean? I always felt loved, I think is the biggest thing, Right?
Right,
Mom? Right, Mom? You love me?
Please say yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's really been hard. I mean, so you tell me, my favorite stories that you have of me, obviously are when I was little, and that, I was always busy. And you didn't know what to do with some of my energy sometimes.
I tried to wear you out every day. Exercise was always the key.
Yeah.
So that hopefully you'd fall asleep in your dinner plate.
Yeah. And I did that a lot. Mm-hmm. Mid-crawl. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She does that now. It's not mush.
And I think that you push me into sports. I mean, I love I think one of the stories I like to talk about too is that swimming. I swam competitively, and I didn't like it at first because I was little. I mean, I was 8 when I started swimming competitively, right. And there was a family of boys, the Kreifungers, and they were this big German family. I mean, they really were. I mean, they were these giant, tall German boys, and they wore these itty bitty tiny Speedos,
of course,
and tiny, and the mom was German, and she, and their names were. Mom, do you remember their names?
Not the boys, just their last name.
Yeah, I just remember the name, but the boys were and they terrified me. I'd never seen boys like this before in my life. And I was terrified. I was an 8-year-old little girl, going to swim practice, and so and I didn't want to go, and she really didn't take that as an answer. And she's like, "Oh, you're going."
Yeah.
And I'd show up.
You have to get used to it.
Yeah.
And try to give you ways of handling it.
Always.
Not just throw you into it, but try to give you some ideas of how to handle the situation.
Yeah, the strategies. And I think that's really cool, Mom, because I think that you've done that in every step. It may have started at 8 years old. And you've done that.
Maybe sooner. Maybe earlier.
Yeah, probably. For me, yeah, earlier. Yeah.
It's funny because we talked about this with Stephanie Cantor about, when do you push a kid to not give up and when do you say, this maybe this isn't the right path for you. You should do something else. How did you know swimming was the right thing for her? That she had to stick with it?
Well, she loved it and she did well with it. And this was just one situation that I felt wasn't a big deal at all. Yeah. We just need to get through it. Yeah.
She's like, yeah, you're listening to you. You're going.
Are you crying?
Are you crying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, I try not to make a big deal out of things, and it all seems to work out
Yeah.
if you do that, I think.
So, and I think that, and again, mom raised a bunch of kids. I mean, it's not just me, and mom has not just raised myself and my sister and my brother, but she took on also, step kids when we enmeshed a family, and she has been able to provide what she's done for me, what you've done for me, also for the others, and what I really love and admire about you the most is that in doing that, you still always stayed very true to yourself. Like you somehow always were able to really hold on to the authentic part of you. And you may not have felt that. I mean, maybe you didn't feel that when you were going through it.
I do what I feel is best.
Yeah.
I feel that if I am doing things as I best see fit, that's what I should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was powerful. Like, it was powerful to watch her, do that kind of stuff. And even with the relationship with my dad, we always knew that we were, second class. We always knew that, those two were it. It was really the two of you, and then the rest of us kind of, were able to kind of live in their world.
Yeah.
We really did. And it was really, and...
We were the most important.
You were the most important.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, you guys were the most important.
Yeah.
And you were a good team, and it was a good team to watch, and we were lucky to be able to see that.
And parents need to be that way. I think kids need to see that the parents have a life of their own, their very own, that has nothing to do with the kids.
Yeah.
Was that something that just came naturally, or did you guys, when you met, say, this is how we need
that
to do
was the
things?
experience that I had in my family. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
That's what I knew.
Yeah.
And that was the life that I expected I'd have.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to talk about grandma. So my grandmother, my mom's mom, she was first of all, the cutest thing in the entire world. The cutest thing, and she was a spitfire. She was
great.
a
She's
spitfire.
the first one in her family to go to college. There
Yeah.
were 3 kids in the family, and she was the only one that went to college. And it was in the early 30s, and she loved teaching and waited to marry my dad because she loved teaching so much. And in those days, you couldn't be a teacher and be married because you might get pregnant.
Yeah.
God forbid.
And then you lose your job.
And you lose your job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she waited to marry him because she was a health and physical education teacher and loved it.
So
very competitive. And one of the great stories with her, she and one of her good friends would run the tennis program for the local recreation department.
Yeah.
And they would organize the whole tennis program competition, and they get all the prizes and everything, and then they'd make sure that they'd win it.
I wonder where I get that from.
Yeah, because they were so good. They knew they'd win it anyway. So.
Yeah.
So she got prizes that she wanted. Yeah. Oh, that's so bad. And my grandmother had this twinkle. So I have to say, so she was, again, she was what, 5'2"?
Yeah, she was short.
I mean, short little thing, from Pennsylvania. My mom grew up in Pennsylvania. Yeah. And she had this twinkle in her eye. And when she was telling a story, she would do this little, almost twinkly kind of I mean, she was just the cutest thing. But she knew every sports team in Pennsylvania.
The Phillies. She followed baseball and the Eagles football, and she knew all the guys on the teams from when they were high school and college age. She'd follow them right along, and then knew when they got into the NFL.
Yeah.
And,
wow.
and so she would at a gathering. She was the men's best gal to talk to.
Yeah, because she knew everything
She
about
could
them.
talk to all the guys
She
about
could
all
talk
the
shop.
sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great. They loved her.
And then another tradition that she has passed down to all of us too is that she was an unbelievable note writer, and she remembered every birthday. So no matter where I was in the world in my entire life, I mean, because I traveled and was all over different places, I somehow always got a note from my grandmother. Yeah. In Europe,
Handwritten
Sweden,
note.
handwritten note. I mean, and everything. And even she would send birthday cards to my friends.
Yep.
She would write these. I mean, she just did that.
a note writer.
And my mom does the exact same thing.
Yeah, she's a
And
note
people
writer.
don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, my in-laws, I'm very fortunate. My in-laws are very nice, and they're like that. They remember
Yeah.
everything, and I'm like, oh, I have to do that.
Yeah.
And a thank you note.
And
Yeah,
a thank you note.
Very
Thank you notes I do.
Yeah.
But they might come
very
3
very
months
still do 'em, though.
down the line.
Yeah, so it's funny, these little traditions, because mom does the same
Yeah.
exact thing. And she would even, my grandmother would send newspaper articles about articles that she thought
Yep.
would be interesting
Of
for me to
interest.
read. And mom still does that to me. She'll be oh, I got this article. And I have 4 of them over on my kitchen table that she
I'd
brought
be
for me.
interested in that.
Now, what are some of the things that you think you gained from your mom being such a spitfire?
A confidence.
Yeah.
Dream your own dreams. You do things because you feel it's the best thing for you. Helping others.
Yeah.
Always thinking of others. trying not to fly off the handle or get super emotional about things. Try to stay more level, and be a wonderful friend.
Yeah,
she was
she's a great
such a
friend.
good friend. Yeah, and she and my dad just had a wonderful life together. They loved each other, and golf was their life, and they ballroom danced, and they really enjoyed their friends, and it was really a nice life. And growing up in that situation for me, I mean, there was no stress, as we call it today. I mean, if I had to just think, well, I hope I'll get a good grade on the test, and will I make cheerleading? That's
Struggles.
all I had to worry about.
Yeah.
Whereas other families, there's so many other serious issues going on.
Well, and it's so interesting
didn't
too.
have that.
Yeah, and it's really interesting too because and if we look at our lives and stuff, Mom, you have been able to, your life didn't turn out like that. I mean, there's been struggles in your life,
That's right.
and it didn't turn out like Grandma's where everything was like, like all like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things happened to, divorce, and
Right.
we lost my brother to cancer. I mean, there's been a lot of like stuff that's happened in your life, and you've always handled it.
And I got my master's degree, and I couldn't get a job.
And you couldn't get a job.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and it's really funny. So if we talk about that, like,
so disappointing.
what I think helps my mom and I have like such a great relationship is that we identify, and there's a lot of me too's. Like, so she, as a young kid, she went back and went back to school when we were young.
Yeah.
She got
I was a
divorced.
single parent,
single
went
parent,
back to school.
went back to school.
Yeah.
That
Got my
kind
master's.
of stuff. And then like I'll never forget there was a time where she written her, which paper was it? Was it your dissertation?
Oh yes, it was early on with the computer, learning to use the little Mac computer, and right when I was finishing up my thesis, the bomb went off and I lost it all.
She
Oh
lost the
my
whole thing.
gosh.
I did have it on paper, but it meant I had to type it all again.
Yeah. She came home
cried.
like crying.
Yeah.
I cried.
Like absolutely like defeated and
I
crying.
cried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she got her master's.
Yeah.
And then she couldn't get a job.
Yeah, there just weren't any available.
So she wallpapered our entire house.
Yep.
Cried. Wallpapered our entire house.
I clean when I'm angry. It's like
And
vigorous scrubbing.
And I that's another point. I think crying is fine. I mean,
Yeah.
there are my times in my life that that I like. Oh boy, was I a crybaby. And then other times I think, gee, I haven't cried in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
To
But I always
let
know
it
that you
out.
did. But like as a child, watching you do that kind of stuff, there was always a gracefulness to it. Even in the crying, and even in the like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, that was one
those
of the
things.
things,
We
right,
always felt
right.
there was a graceness to you.
Yeah.
And I think that watching
She'll get
you-
over it.
Yeah, she'll get over it. And I think that. As I've now watched you age, because now you're in your 70s, and to watch you age so gracefully, and after even losing Dad, and losing Rob, and like all the stuff that's happened in our life, you've done it in a graceful way. Even when you've fallen apart and stuff like that, you really you just have such grace to you that I just dream to have. I really do. I mean, Mom, I really, I
You've got it, babe.
Well, I was
You've
gonna
got
say-
it. You've got it.
I mean, I have to honor you because all the things you said about your mother, about how she was a great friend and helping others, that's you. That's who you are. Like,
Right down the
thank you
generations. Yeah.
for giving me an awesome friend.
Yeah.
'cause
She's an amazing friend.
I've been telling her that I didn't have friends growing up. And this is like the first like real like die-hard like friend relationship.
It's
like
a wonderful
yeah,
thing.
you have to have them.
Yeah.
And I've learned that. I mean, I definitely learned that from one of the gifts that I've had.
I mean, you definitely got that from her, and you got that from your mom, and
I think it was more the like I know the importance of it. I think that's what it is. Is it like I saw the importance of the connection with friends, and it's not necessarily just women friends. Like I feel like I'm a good friend to even my guy friends. Like I think there's something very unique and strong with women friends that guys don't get to experience just because of their makeup. But I know that I can do that even with some of my guy friends. Like I'm a good friend to really who those people are. But I saw that with I learned that from watching my mom. Show up for people.
Right.
Show up for people, remember things about people. It's the little things. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that we get caught up in some of like it needs to be big and moments. And we talked about this, I think, even on our first podcast when, my message from church was to live extraordinary lives. And I think it's in the little stuff, you know, and that's what makes us great friends and great parents and great, you know, husbands and wives and partners and stuff. It's like the little stuff. And I know I learned that from my mom. You know, she's not big and flashy and like there's nothing, you know, I mean, she drives a navy blue Caravan, you know what I mean? And wears navy blue and flowered pants all the time. Like, you know what I mean? She's the cutest thing ever. But she's just, you're not flashy. Like, you're not flashy. You know, you're very graceful. That's all I can really say.
The other thing that I think is really important is to talk to other people that you don't know. I mean, on the street, if, you know, something gets dropped and you go, oh, gee, sorry, I'll pick that up. Anything, you know, you just never know because that person may turn out to be a friend.
Yeah, I love that.
I do too.
Yeah, and everybody has a story, which I always think. I always think that, and she and I talk about that now. That, you know, I know for me, the business that I'm in today, that, you know, I have that ability to really like talk to human beings that I would never talk to before.
I think that's one of the reasons we have so many issues in the world today, because we're so quick to judge, and it's not our job to judge. No. You know, it's our job to listen and, you know, give people the benefit of the doubt. And hear their story. And I think if we listen to people's stories more, we'd probably have a lot less strife. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. And I think that with my mom too, like, I think as a child, you know, and this is where I hope I can pass this on to my kids too, is, and I think you did a much better job than I'm currently doing, but we'll see how that goes. They're little. But I think it was just I always knew that you like loved and adored me. Always. Again, even, I mean, and I had moments where she should not have.
The veins in my neck were popping out. I'm sure those of you can relate to that.
Yeah, and not only that, but like I was making choices. There was a time in my life that I was making choices that were really, really not good. Not good. They were just very dangerous. They were not healthy for me. I mean, I got mixed up in drugs and alcohol and my mom has never done any of that and didn't understand it. And like, you know, so, you know, she didn't know how to do any of that. And still in that moment and in that time, I never felt abandoned. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, even when she was like, I don't understand any of this, but she was there for me. And that, for me, that's what I want to be as a parent. Like, knowing that my kids are on a journey that I really have no control over. They're wired. I think we talked about this even with your mom, is that they are that, but always know that I like love them. Yeah. I might not like their choices and I might not like their behavior, but like, that's what we're supposed to do.
Well, I don't think you can ever have enough experience to know what you're doing as a parent. I think almost every kid, it's a new journey and a new ride. And
as a parent, you do the best you can with what you experience. So that's all you can do.
So, and my mom makes an unbelievable apple pie. Can we just talk about her apple pie for a minute? So I went to boarding school for high school in Vermont, and my parents live in Narragansett, Rhode Island. And my mom would come to most of my. I mean, you guys made it to a lot of my soccer games. Yeah, Jay would drive 3 hours, and my mom would come with an apple pie. Like every single time, she would come with an apple pie, and I would never want to share it with any of my friends.
I think you have a shirt that says that.
What?
You don't share food?
I don't share food. Yeah, I don't. But really, her apple pie. Yeah. And so now, of course, as she's getting older, I have a niece that can. I have two nieces that can actually make the apple pie, and I'm like, Dylan, I'm like, you have to learn how to make this pie because Auntie is going to have it for the rest of her life. So when I'm in the nursing home and Munga is no longer around, we call my mom. That's my mom's name is Munga. And Munga is no longer around. I go, you're going to have to bring Auntie some apple pie in the nursing home and making sure I have pants on.
Pretty sure you're not gonna have pants.
Really not. I know.
The best pants are no pants.
Yeah, I know. Especially when I'm old and I'll be, you know. But you know, and like the apple pie is just, I'll never. Even if a doctor ever told me I would die if I ate your pie because of some, you know, allergy, I would still eat it. I would take the risk.
Now, how did the name Munga come around? Is there a story to that?
Yes, oldest granddaughter, little. Couldn't say. I'm Marty. My name's Marty. I have older grandchildren through Dr. Bob, and they would call me Grandmart, which I love. Grandmart, you know, Grandma Marty. Well, I tried that with Dylan, the oldest of the younger group,
wave of grandkids.
Second wave, and never once. She never ever said that, and it just came out Munga, and he was Bubba.
Yeah, so they were Munga and Bubba. So then we did look it up. We looked it up, and it was funny because Dylan actually was really cute because she said, "I know they call you Grandma, but you're
As
always."
she got older, she said, "I know you're Marty. I know you're my grandmother. I know the other kids call you Grandma. You're my Munga."
Aw.
So now all the littles call
The
her
younger
Munga.
ones call me Munga.
Yeah.
And I volunteer in the local kindergarten, and they call me Miss Munga.
Well, and I've had to say, so it's funny because so mom does do work in the kindergarten classroom, and I've had to tell people, I'm like, if you hear about a Munga, I'm like, it's my mom. I don't want you to think that and it's cute because we'll go around town and people will be like, hi, all these little kids are like, hi, Munga.
Yeah, and the parents are, they love it now.
Yeah, and we looked it up, and it actually means queen. It's an African word for queen or something, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I thought it was something we looked up or something.
We might have to check on that.
Yeah,
But
I
anyway,
know.
that's who we are.
Yeah.
And then my husband would say, how long am I going to be Bubba?
I never got the chance to meet him, but he sounds like a Bubba.
He was something else. He was
I
one
know
of a
there's
kind.
a lot of stories that float through the OR about him.
Yeah, good mom. We got to remember, Tara is in the OR, so she hears all the
So
stories that he was
yeah.
yes, involved with.
Well, this is probably not the time to be.
Why not?
But they broke the mold when he arrived.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, they definitely for sure. Yeah, he's one of a kind.
I mean, when people speak of him,
Yeah.
they tell funny stories, but it's in a very loving way.
They and respected him.
Yeah. He sounded like quite the character.
Oh,
And in those days, they could do things.
Oh,
that
yeah, you can't do
never
anything
could-
now.
Never could be done today.
There's too many rules now.
They had fun.
Yeah.
They worked so hard. No matter day or night, he'd be over there. Whatever the call came, he'd be over there, and loved it. Never would complain. Oh, I gotta go. Never, always. Bad snowstorm. He did the skis over one time. He did cross country skis over
across the pond. Go across the pond, or did he go the back way?
He did the back.
The back way. Yeah.
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 I
To
mean,
get to the
whatever it took,
hospital.
just to get there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I just loved it.
He would come. He would really come. He would come home. There was two really funny things that he would do. He would come home and he would always he always gushed the hardest, longest days, and he would never complained about being there. The nastiest patients, the nastiest cases,
Yep.
The funniest
The bloodier,
cases, the
the
bloodier, the
horrible, he
horrible.
loved
And he'd be like,
it.
"Oh, blood and
Yeah.
guts." We talked about blood and guts at the dinner table
yeah.
my entire life,
Right.
And
we would drive to New Hampshire to ski, and he'd have his the little small
the
tapes.
cassettes.
Yeah. And often they'd be on breast tissues and everything, and the kids would be in like, oh, not another.
We'd have to listen to the doctor tapes.
Yeah, and they wouldn't turn on the radio or anything until the tape was over.
Yeah, he'd make us listen to and it was like listening for us. We were like,
Yeah.
wah, wah, wah,
Like
wah,
the
wah.
Peanuts.
Yes, and we were listening to the doctor tapes. Yeah, that's how. And he wouldn't budge. There was no giving in.
Yeah,
it was his world.
We had to listen to him.
It was his world.
And then,
Yeah, and he would tease us, and he had the funniest sense of humor.
yeah.
And he would tease us, and and he loved chocolate.
Yeah.
He
Keep his eyes brown.
Yep, he loved chocolate.
I think another really interesting part about him is he knew how to play, even though he was a hard worker. Even early on in his career, and I think this is something that younger people really need to know about, is you work hard, but you need to take time to play.
Yeah.
And whether with the family, taking the family, or whatever. And remember, this man only made money when he used his hands.
Yeah.
So when he was not in the office, there was no money being made.
Yeah.
And he would always make sure, on a regular basis to leave and go and do. And that's another reason why we had such a great life, because we were able to do so many things.
Yeah, and that was even why he was working before he retired.
His whole career.
Yeah. Yep.
Early on, not so much because he was
Yeah.
busy making
Yeah.
money. It was so hard to make enough money.
Yeah.
But later on, that was... And another thing about not worrying about getting hurt or having his hands be damaged, he would always wear gloves when he did projects. He was project man.
Always wear gloves.
But like skiing and everything, he didn't hold back.
No, and we as a family, some of my favorite memories as a family was, we would go skiing and he would be the lead, and like ducks, we would follow, because he was a beautiful skier. Oh,
he was
a
great.
beautiful skier, and we would just follow behind him and and just watch him, and they skied into their. He was
80 when
80.
he finished. Yeah, he skied for free at 80.
At 80.
But we were ski dancers, and we ballroom danced on blades, and he started that when he was close to 70.
Yeah.
That he thought, oh yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah.
on 3-meter skis, and we ballroom dance down the slopes.
Well, and it's funny because and you sit there and you think about it. I heard something today. It was a really cool thing that I heard today at work, and the woman who runs my department is retiring, and so she was saying that in her struggle to make a decision about retiring, she said her father, when he was still alive, like at the time, I think she was in her 60s, she was like just turned 60, and he brought a measuring tape out for her and like put it on the floor, and he said, okay, so he's like, so say this part of the measuring tape is the life you've already lived, and now you're 60, and it's like, move over here, and he's like, this is what you have left.
Right.
What are you going to do in this next section? And obviously it was about 4 times shorter than what she's already lived. And I think about that, and I think about that with the patients that I work with, and I'm like, you now have a brand new whatever they got or whatever I'm working with them on, and like you now have a chance to live this whole next section of your life exactly the way you want to. And mom and dad got to do that.
Another good point with that, I think, too, is often as you get older, sometimes you draw back from things that you learned earlier that you let go for all those years, and then you bring it back and you enjoy it. I think there's so many people that get to be 70, retire 70s, and they don't have anything to draw from.
Yeah.
They don't have any experience of something that they really loved. Because I do run into a lot of people, and I say, well, what are you doing that you love? I don't know.
Yeah.
They don't have a clue.
Yeah.
So sometimes you really need to go back and do something else.
Yeah, and I think we can take that even further because, in life, with the things that come along with it, the struggles, like, you can do that when you go through a divorce. You can, you can find the joy, in the things that make you happy, because it's always coming back to like connecting to yourself. Right. So you've been able to do that in every phase of your life. Like you did that when you got divorced. You did that when we lost my brother. We did that when,
May I mention that your brother said, this is sad, but don't be sad.
Yes.
And when he died at age 17.
Yeah.
Don't sweat the small stuff. I think that's all so important for people to know.
And that's how we got to heal. Like I think that like the message that he left us.
He taught us how to live.
He taught us how to live. We're really lucky that way. I think that in situations like that, so the story. My brother was 17 when he was diagnosed with a really rare bone cancer.
His nickname was Thunder.
Yeah. So he was in 6 months. He died within 6 months. It was a really aggressive, it was a really crazy time.
And Dad diagnosed him.
Yeah. And so he was he rode crew at Tabor Academy, and we brought him home. And Dr. Marchand found his, they went down too far on the MRI, and read the MRI, and he had a tumor growing through his femur.
His femur.
Yeah. So when he came, so we knew how sick he was. So when Dad came home, he was like, basically, he's got cancer, and we're going to lose him. And the grace again that my mother showed through that, because he was immediately at Sloan Kettering in New York City, and Mom basically moved to New York City, and
luckily I was able to do that.
Yeah, so they were in New York City, and it's just and there was grace that, but really what it was my brother had this like unbelievably old soul to him, and he knew all of his treatment. He was present for all the decisions.
Yeah. We let him. We made sure that he made the decisions.
Yeah, he was part of the whole thing.
That's another interesting thing that people need to know.
Yes.
You go with what the patient.
Yeah.
You go with.
And he left. And then the things that he needed to do, like he was really like accepting in a way that is uncomprehendable for a 17-year-old about what was happening in his life. He really did, and he left us gifts that allowed us to heal. Is really what he did.
I think you'd be shocked. I mean, I used to work in a pediatric intensive care unit, and I've seen a lot of kids pass away. A lot of kids with cancer or terminal diseases, liver diseases, kidney diseases, and it's amazing how these kids as young as 2 and 3 know when it's time to leave, and they do it with a calmness, like they know it's going to be okay, and it's
the families.
They actually teach the parents and the family.
They let the families know it's going to be okay.
How to let go, because I don't think we always know how to do that.
No,
I don't think we need to know how to do that in healthcare. I think we overtreat and hang on a little too long.
Yeah, and we were lucky enough to it allowed us to heal. I can't say that my healing took a little bit of time, but it was definitely, it took all of us. I mean, I don't think it ever has. I mean, it's one of those things.
Message.
Yeah. But again, like, as I talk about my mom, that grace that you drew upon through that whole thing, led all of us in a way that was healthy. And now as we lost my dad, it was only 2 years in August.
2 years.
Yeah, it'll be 2 years in August. She has been able to do another thing with Grace, but now live her life after him. In a way that you've drawn upon things that you've loved. You've found new things you've loved. You've
And
taken
that I
things that you
love
love
to do with him.
to do with him and make it now your own, very different.
Make it my own, but it's new.
It's new.
Yeah.
And you haven't been there's been moments where you've been afraid, but you've done it anyway.
Right.
My guess is he would have wanted that for you. He sounds like someone who lived his life.
He's saying, "You go, girl."
Yeah, he totally is. Like, so much so that she's dancing so much that I had to work on her IT band the other day. I was like, she's like, I got this thing. And she's like, I'm doing these big sweeping moves. And I'm like, oh, Mom. Yep, we need to work on your IT band a little bit.
I know you're beautiful when you
She's
dance.
gorgeous.
Thank you.
Gorgeous.
Thank you. Yes, I call it my new sport. My dancing with Doc was sweet and wonderful, and we took lessons for years, ballroom dancing, and loved it. And his eyes, when we danced, he loved it. His eyes would sparkly.
Oh.
He really loved it, and I loved it. But now, now I can do bigger steps. I can be more dramatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's found a partner that just is a little bit more open.
Yeah, well, you dance with all these different men from college age to 90.
Yeah.
It's a new sport.
Yeah. And it's fun, Mom, because I have to say that, and someone said this to me, even me recently, is that, others are watching. And so I know my girlfriends who have known you for forever. Right. We look to you and we look to see how you're doing it, because we know we'll be there,
exactly.
whether it's with the loss of a spouse or whatever it is, whatever happens,
you just keep
this
going.
This is how we are going to learn how to do it. And we watch it from you. And I love it because Mom you'll come to coffee with us. And it's probably my favorite time ever when you come to coffee and you sit with all the girls from the gym and a couple of the guys, and we sit around and we talk about the crazy shit that we talk about. And there's always some crazy, something that you're always like, oh, I didn't know that. I learned something new.
What are you talking
Somehow
about?
we were talking about dating, and the word unicorn came up, and what unicorn means when you're dating online, which is something really dirty. And of course, then we had to explain it to my mom, and so she's like, "Oh, I didn't know that."
I like that she nods and giggles.
Yeah, she just nods and giggles.
A lot of that when I'm with your coffee.
Yes, exactly.
Nodding and giggling.
But she's nodding and giggling, and then later she'll be like, "What was that?" And she wants the details of it. Yeah, I know. And then she's like, "Are you guys being safe? And are you making sure you're being protected?" That kind of stuff. Yes, Mom. But it's what I mean is that you're helping us.
Right. Thank you.
Live gracefully.
I think that's the best part about being an older woman now is you get to have this almost friend relationship with your mom, and I think there's a more understanding. I feel that with my mom.
Yeah.
There's things that we talk about, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm having this conversation with my mom. We talk about sex and all kinds of things, and I'm like, it doesn't feel weird at all.
Right.
It's actually, I find it to be very relieving. Yeah.
I think there's still some moms and daughters that can't do that.
Yeah.
I know how lucky we are.
Just the way they were raised, or their their
they're not
values.
capable.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I think
and there's nothing wrong. It just they aren't able.
No.
And it's okay.
Yep. And I think my mom's done a really good job too, because there's 6 siblings in this family, and each one of us operate from a very different operating system. Very, very different. And again, like I said, she's able to love and adore and appreciate each one of us for our own special qualities.
Yeah. And I think it does come down from the top, the parents at the top, to try to keep it so that there isn't that there are not issues between the siblings that would come up. You just don't let that. You just try not to have that happen.
Yeah, you're really good. You're usually really good about that.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're living the most important message, that your kids are always watching. And how you live your life, your kids will eventually. They may not agree with you when they're younger, or
it may filter
but
down later.
They're watching you.
Yeah, and I find that now. I still think about my own mom and think, wow, I know how she would have handled that. And you do really kind of keep going back.
Yeah.
And looking and thinking about, I wonder how she'd handle that.
I know. Yeah, I have to tell you that for me, I'm so lucky that you're the person that I get to go do that with. So down the road, which I do it now anyway, but down the road, you are the one that I get to use as my guidebook. How lucky am I? That's really a really blessing. You and Dad, we all have T-shirts that say WWDD. What would Dad do? Because there's moments that we think about that. We're because now that he's gone, we're what would he do? How would he handle the situation? Because he always handled the things very, very well.
Yeah, very common sense. Yeah. And again, just not to have drama. Don't we call it drama in our lives to try not to?
I know. I'm so emotional, Mom, though. So that's
But emotional and drama is kind of, so I think, a little different.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love you for who you are.
And I love you.
You were the one that could always handle the situation when the rest of the family is like, ooh, when the cat would die.
Oh, yeah. Tell that story about when the cat died. How old was I?
The cat died at the bottom of the steps one day.
How old was I?
And I was the single parent.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the 3 little kids.
We were little.
They were very little. And I'm going, oh boy, what do we do here? What do you do?
And the cat's dead?
The cat's dead.
Yeah.
And you immediately got the towel, wrapped and I'm looking for a box. And we're putting it together. And this little girl is, putting the dead cat into the box. And yeah, I mean, it was like she was the helper.
Yeah.
And thought nothing of it.
Yeah.
You just, boom, did it.
So think about that, Mom. If we think about that story, which I know that it's going to get a little deep, but so she and I just also too, like pretty much all the family members that have passed away, it's been she and I.
You're right about that.
It's been you and I.
Yeah.
And like, so my grandmother passed away.
Yeah,
It was
you're
her and I in the room holding her hand.
That's right.
When
And-
my brother passed away, it was us next to each
right
other
there,
when he
yeah,
passed
right on the
away.
bed,
When my
yeah.
dad passed away, it was
was
only
us.
she and I.
Yeah.
So we have been in that situation,
That
just
is
the two of
interesting.
us.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
That's true.
And we do really well.
Yeah. And we went and cleared out Grandma's house
Yeah.
too after she died.
Yeah.
The two of us
The
went
two
and
of us did that. Yeah.
Right, remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. So we have that, like, it's been she and I together.
And it
through
just
that.
happened.
Yeah.
You happened to be the one available. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It just happened, and we handled it in a way that
right.
it was just. I loved. I mean, I don't love it, but
Yeah.
to have that
meaningful.
ability to be able to handle that.
It sounds like you guys are nurses in your own right.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do. You help people into the world. You help
Yeah.
them exit gracefully and
That's true.
Yeah.
take care of things that need to get done that not everyone wants to take care of.
And we were able to keep Dad home.
Yeah. For as long as he. Yeah.
Yeah.
As long
He died at home in his own bed
on his own time
on his own time.
with the tide.
Yep. He went out. Yep. He went with the outgoing tide.
He did. He went out with the outgoing. It was crazy.
Yep.
It was a crazy day. Yeah. But he's with us. It's weird to be at the hospital sometimes because anytime I see somebody in their OR outfits, walking through the hallways, or if it's anybody who's a little bit shorter, the way he was, I'm always like, oh, it like catches my eye.
Yeah.
Thinking because I followed him around the hospital like that forever. It's weird. It's weird to see everyone and knowing that I'm now working in his hospital. In a completely different capacity, but still, like, knowing that he is there, like, every day.
We've got the family member at the hospital.
I know, forever.
Carrying on the
Yeah,
tradition.
carrying it on. So it's a nice blessing.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, Mom, you're the best. What's one thing, if you could give advice to women that are in the middle of the struggle right now? If your 70-year-old self could tell your 40-year-old self when you were in the middle of like some tough times, like what would you tell her?
What would Marty do?
Oh, yeah.
What would Marty do?
WWMD. I would say keep a routine going. Cry when you have to.
Yeah.
Get enough sleep. Count on your friends,
Yeah.
your family.
Exercise.
Exercise, of course.
Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah, of course. Yes, of course. I mean, that should be up there near the top. Yeah, and get it in every day. Be sure you get it in every day. Yeah.
And dance.
If you can.
Dance.
But the exercise, yes, absolutely. And if you didn't have a usual routine before all this happened, you've got to figure one out. Even if it's just out and getting a good walks in.
Yeah.
Brisk walks in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely think that. What are you thinking of? Other things?
No, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Just as much as you are.
Oh, thank you.
I know. I'm so glad you're my mom.
Oh, and I'm so glad you're my Jen.
And I'm so glad that I get to share you with the people that I love the most too. Like my girlfriends, like just adore you, and I feel so lucky that I get to share you with them.
I love them all too.
I know.
Yep, you have more daughters now.
I
Sorry.
do. I've got lots. Yeah, it's so nice. I'm very fortunate.
Good.
I feel very fortunate. I feel very blessed.
Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing with us, Mom. You did good.
And happy Mother's Day.
Yes, happy
Happy
Mother's
Mother's
Day.
Day.
To all the mothers
All right.
out there
So-
and the fathers that can celebrate Mother's Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are a number out there who can do that.
Yes, that is true. There's lots of nice men raising really nice children. So we like to end every night, every single podcast, we like to end with a quote. So the quote that I found for today, directly for you, this is dedicated to my mother, is everything I am you helped me be. I love you.
I love you too.